brain tumors. They gave him a stroke, doing a biopsy. And he had a seizure and he fell and he was 6'7", weighed 350 pounds. And he died 9 years ago tomorrow. And I loved him dearly. He was our baby. He was the last baby our parents had. I have an older brother. No, keep going. So what I say, some people would notice me because of the grin I had. This is from Illegally Healed, a magazine, a group of veterans across the country. And it was picked up by Herb magazine and shared around the world 3 million times. Doesn't make me anything special. And there are actually some mistakes in this article, and I'll talk about them. Oops, I didn't want to go there. All right. So we have absolutely no testing requirements in Arizona on our medicine. I am fighting liver cancer. I was a corpsman in the Navy at the end of the war. I was the first girl in 20 years to go to hospital corps school in San Diego. It was me and 10,000 sailors. I'm getting out of the picture, sorry, Greg. So, they made me the educational petty officer of the company because they knew that the boys would come to my class. I only lost one. All the rest of my boys passed every class. They learned everything they were supposed to about human anatomy and physiology, about biology, about first aid, about pharmacology, about the drugs that we had to give ourselves. We had to hit ourselves with atropine on the field. I had to be able to carry a guy off a field myself. I had to be able to pick up one end of a stretcher and carry a 200-pound guy out in order to be in the Navy. And then while I was in boot camp, I was shipped out by my dad for being caught with seeds and stems in his dormitory. He was the vice president at Northern Arizona University. He's also dead. So we have no mold testing. So a bunch of us went before a Senate committee, and we actually went before the Senate committee begging them for mold testing. And I got my 3 seconds of fame, and you're not going to hear it, are you? Nope, you don't. What I said was, I did everything I knew to try to save my own life. So by the time I knew I had hepatitis, I went through interferon treatment, I went through pegylated interferon treatments with the Ribitron, but I had genotype 1A, which is the hardest kind to kill. So, neither one of those worked. My doctor told me to wait, that there were all these drugs in the pipeline coming down, that something was gonna give, for me to just wait. Well, I was 42 years old when I had my only child. I was still teaching. My husband was out of a job. I'm now working 3 jobs trying to keep afloat. I got 3 months behind at my home mortgage. I almost lost my house. Every time I would go to my doctor with some problem, he would prescribe me another pill until one day I looked in the mirror naked in the bathroom. I weighed 255 pounds and I had 20 pills in my hand. And I said, "What are you doing?" So I tossed all the pills. I immediately went to my pantry in my kitchen and I threw out everything white and processed. My kid came home from school, opened the refrigerator and said, "Mom, what am I supposed to eat?" And I said, "I don't know right now, but we better go back to the grocery store and buy some healthy food because what we're doing is killing ourselves." By this time, her father was gone. Thank you, dear. I also have a voice disability, which got me kicked out of teaching early. I'd rather be teaching. And so while I watched an awful lot of people over the last 3 days, I have seen doctor talk this far over my head, and I'm pretty smart. I actually am Dr. Stairs in the university environment, but it's in educational administration. It is not a medical doctor or jurisprudence or any of that. I could have been a principal. I didn't want to. I wanted to raise my baby. So I stayed in the classroom. I taught everything from music to technology. I ran computer labs. Okay, here we go. These are sort of funny, actually. So when I was in boot camp, I had long hair. I was a hippie. I wanted to be a Woodstock hippie, but I was too young. But if you had that hair on your collar, they put you on the haircut list. They put me on the haircut list 3 times. I finally bought that wig. You know that song, I stuffed my hair up under my hat and went in to ask them why, sign, everywhere a sign. Well, that's all I can think of when I think of that one. This down here, I truly did go sword fishing. Those are the size of fish that we were catching when I went working. Up at the top is where I was given my doctorate. And down in the bottom, Greg and I, last year, we visited Rosie the Riveter State Park, which I've been to before. And this was a display. I've actually heard 3 Rosies talk before. 1 black, 2 white, and they had dramatically different stories. Very interesting, but part of my educational process. So you've been told everything there is to know about cannabis, as far as I can tell, over the last 3 days, between the simplest 101 of the difference between indica and sativas, which the truth of the matter is none of it matters, okay? A lot of people think there's only pink ribbons. Well, every color of cancer has its own color of ribbon. My color is green. Thank you. I always liked that, the liver cancer was green. Okay, and according to the Mormon doctrine itself, you just can't deny it, folks. You just can't deny it anymore. Can we? Hi, Landon. I see you. So you also know what a regular cell looks like. It's normal looking, right? It's got regular edges. This is middle school science class, okay? Now this is just for fun, because a cancer cell doesn't really look like that, but kind of, sort of. It's got clawed, weird edges. And it's those clawed, weird edges that attack the cells next to it, and then infect the next cell, and the next cell, and then it metastasizes, and you hear all those big words, and half of us don't know what they mean, or half of us do. And so then, we know that, oops. So, a normal cell, when it dies, right, it dies through a process called apoptosis. And it's just sloughed off through our body systems, whether it's the lymphatic systems, through our urinary tracts, through our whatevers, blood systems. That's how we get rid of everything dead, but those are cancer cells over there. So those little spirally things coming out, they grab a hold of the cell next to it and just keep going and keep going and keep going until it just doesn't stop. So everybody by now knows all the components of the plant. It's not just this component or that component. It's all of these components, and it's all of these components that if I had it all to do again, I would go back to college and my degree would be in organic chemistry, and I would study every component. And then I would take 24 different strains of oil and start mixing them together in specific percentages until I could focus in on what will kill a pancreatic cancer tumor, what will kill a lung cancer tumor, what will kill, we know there's 2 CB receptors, right? They just discovered the 3rd and the 4th, and if that's the case, how many more are there? And yet our medical doctors haven't been taught anything about our endocannabinoid systems that we obviously have. And we also know that a lot of the terpenes are very important to us, but they also come in regular food. This is all just natural. It is. And I realized I was raised a Southern Baptist. We're all good, but don't have any fun. By golly, don't have any fun. It's very similar to the way what I'm reading about the Mormons' perspective is that guys are all good as long as this is about your health. And what I am talking about is about your health, not about your head. It doesn't touch my head. And I take a whole gram of high concentrated THC full spectrum oil every single day for the last 4 years. I'm not crazy. I'm not laid out. I haven't died yet. Still more of the same. These terpenes are important. But I'm going to tell you something else. There's a lot of people who think that to make cannabis oil, you put it in the alcohol and you leave it there for months. No. You freeze everything. It takes 10 to 15 seconds and you get rid of it. You clean it out. Otherwise, you're getting all the chlorophyll, and the chlorophyll will upset your stomach and make you puke. We don't want people puking. I've had 2 people puke on me. I hate that. Okay, more of the same, and you've seen this so many times in the last 3 days. I'm not playing. So, this is actually, I hate to admit this, but the person who turned me on to Rick Simpson oil also ripped me off. But I was able to make 175 grams of oil myself before she locked me out, stole everything and kept everything. But that is my own oil that I make. And it goes by a number of names, as you can see. But it takes the whole plant, not just cheap trim either, people. And it takes high-grade alcohol. I use something called extractahol. It's very expensive. What was it? $400 for 5 gallons, correct?
$480 for 5 gallons, certified organic Cann alcohol.
And it actually was shipped out of Arizona. Okay? So in the simplest terms. So now I'm going to talk to you about, and I'm not sure if I actually, there is light in the darkness. We do not have to go after chemo anymore. We don't have to go for radiation anymore. But a combination is good too. It depends on what is happening. Somehow the title to my talk kind of changed, and so I'm willing to fly that one because I am a teacher. But this is really basically the last slide that I have. But so, if we know that CB1 and CB2 receptors are over here, and they're going to do this, and THC binds with the CB1 receptor, okay, and I know there are more and more and more. I'm sorry, you can't hear me, okay.
No, I was just pointing at the head. That's where your CB1
right,
receptors
okay,
are.
okay.
And then your CB2s are throughout the rest of your body.
But now we know that there's a 3rd one and a 4th one, which means there has to be more. And because I am a teacher, yes, please, if you want to interrupt me, I'm good with that. Now, I've been to other panel discussions where I raised my hand and no one would ever let me say, I might say, and it made me mad. So if you want to stop me and ask me or add to what I'm saying, by all means. I am not a medical doctor. None of us know the truth. We only can get what we get from Israel, Spain, and Great Britain. Everything I do, I reference and I research from the countries that are allowed to research it. Now, I've had questions from people about Dr. Sue Sisley's study. And I do know Dr. Sue, and I do know what's up with the study. And I was asked if I wanted to be a part of it, but unfortunately, she had already told the truth, and I declined. Because to be in Dr. Sue's study, the veterans had to have a ride to and from her office. They couldn't smoke anything else except that dirt garbage that she was getting sent to her from the federal grow, and it was garbage. She said it was pure dust, at least 3 to 5 years old. It wasn't worth testing. So I was a little upset because I have met Montel Williams, and I have met some of those others, and I've talked to Rick Simpson. And so when I saw her starting to hang out with the pro ballers, I was like, what are you doing, Sue? What are you doing? But they do have the money, and they do need the research. The pro football players in particular have TBIs so bad, and we pay them for that. And their average work life is about 3 or 4 years before they're destroyed. And they can't play football anymore. And it's good for some people, and it keeps kids in school, and I'm all about that. But Randy Johnson lives near us, but I'm in front of my own camera again. But Randy Johnson lives near us, and I had to take my 91-year-old mother to a dermatologist. And he walked in the room, and my mother's pretty deaf, and my mother very loudly went, "He looks so familiar," you know, and you know how celebrities really are. And so I was like, "Shh, Mom, shh, you know, I'll tell you who he is later." And you know, and so Randy, the unit, he goes and sits over in the corner, and these other girls, so they come out and they call for Randy, and I went, yeah. And so then I leaned over to my little old 91-year-old mother, and I went, yes, Mother, that was Randy Johnson, the unit from the Diamondbacks, you know. With Stevie Nicks lives in Scottsdale. I mean, where we live in Phoenix near ASU, we live around a lot of very famous people, but the pro ballers, the basketballers, are killing their knees for our enjoyment. The football players are all getting TBIs for our enjoyment. I mean, come on. Actually, I got a massage at the massage school from this girl. And I could tell just by looking at her lower torso, which was all I could see while I'm being massaged, because my behind hurt, but that's because I fell and cracked my knee. And I was like, you're an athlete, it's obvious, so what's your sport? And she went, swimming, and I went, I'm laying there, and then I went, they just built a brand new indoor swimming pool at ASU. Guess who's the head swimming coach at ASU? Michael Phelps. So I had to ask her if she in fact got to train with Mikey, and she said, oh yes. And she gave me the best massage ever. So how it really works is, and this is what I didn't hear from the hotshot doctors with their medical degrees, is that the oil and water doesn't mix, right? Chemistry, science people, oil and water doesn't mix. So what the oil does is it coats that nasty cell, and it gets caught up in all those little barbs that I showed in that picture. And it coats that thing until it can't get to the cell next to it. It has no choice but to turn inward on itself and basically cannibalize itself. And it eats itself, and then it's just left away like any other dead cell. And that's how it's theoretically supposed to work. Questions, because I love questions. Oh, come on. Yes, please, Bear.
With all of the, I'm really interested because every year there's more and more and more that, oh, wow, we just found this
I'm old and I'm political. I'm a researcher and I dig and I sat on Harry Truman's knee when I was growing up. Okay, I actually lived and took dancing lessons at Truman Corners. So I grew up a lifelong Democrat where my father was superintendent of schools and then was vice president at Northern Arizona University. So the future, I'm petrified right now. I am absolutely petrified. And I'm also petrified, but I'm going to say this to you guys too. I want you to carefully read your Proposition 2 and make sure that's really what you want, because once it's done, it's really much harder to fix than you think. We know in Arizona, look at California, they supposedly legalized Chris Martin. How legal is it in California?
County to county.
County to county. And do you know why that is, folks? He does.
It's a great law that passed.
And who got involved in that great law that they passed? The MPP, they're called the Marijuana Policy Project. You do not want their help. They are out to form monopolies, and they have one little caveat that they put in every single bill they've had written so far that says that an individual county or municipality can ban it all. All. That means medical patients. Santa Clarita, California has banned it all. I don't know how many other cities. I don't have them in my head right now, but I've actually done map searches of what counties and what cities in California have banned it all. Any place where the Marijuana Policy Project has been allowed in to help write the legislation, whether it be a legislative bill or a people's initiative, they jack it up every single time. All right. So I'm firmly believing that they're going to find out there are a lot more. Yes, sir.
So the grant that you eat every day, is it decarb or is it heated or not heated or both?
Mine's heated.
Heated, yeah.
Oh yeah. Mine's activated.
Okay.
But I live in a legal state with a legal car.
The other thing too is people really need to be careful. I'm going to vote for Prop 2 just so it can pass, but like you said, there are things in that bill like saying no smoking or vaporizing. The police aren't going to care whether it's vaporizing or smoking. If they see vapor or smoke, they're going to arrest you regardless, and a lot of people are going to get sacrificed to that until they can beat that in the law system, just like in Colorado. It took a lot of people getting arrested and getting lawyers and fighting to they won the cases where the cops finally just gave up on trying to prosecute the cases.
And you guys, who makes all the money? Who? It's the lawyers, you guys. Be careful. Plus, okay, I'm gonna do this. Your Prop 2 says, make sure I'm saying this right, that there's only gonna be 15 outlets? Up to 15 outlets?
Well, the other problem is that just like in Colorado and Grand Junction, they had a ton of dispensaries, and Grand Junction's right over the line where a lot of Mormons live. And so when they said that they were going to vote to ban the dispensaries in Grand Junction, I saw all the Mormon churches, and I knew that they were going to ban it. And so all those people lost their money and their investments, and now they have one dispensary that's right outside in Palisade in Colorado. And so they're basically, even if Prop 2 passes in the Morgan strongholds, they're going to be able to go and do whatever they want.
So
just like
it's, in your Prop 2, is that caveat already in there that they can ban everything by
Well, a lot
municipality?
of times what they do is they won't rent spaces to the people.
Well, yeah, they
They'll
do it another
they'll do
way.
stuff, they'll make it as hard as they possibly can for you in every way.
Yeah, I know, all about it.
We gotta start somewhere though.
I get that too, which is why I've been really cautious about saying anything. Yeah, go Bear.
I have only been able to read again for a very short amount of time. But what I've been reading on Prop 2 that gave me hope that I might be able to come home one day to my state and live with my family is the fact that if this passes and there is so little bit of points of a dispensary, I'm hoping to God that the ones at least 100 miles where I'm going to live.
Well, that's the other thing that bothers me, you guys. 100 miles?
Yes.
We struggle with the 25 miles.
We're right, Chris? I mean, you guys. Plus, I struggle at home because ours have to be in the nastiest, most industrial neighborhoods that, I'll be honest, even though I taught in South Phoenix, there are some dispensaries in some neighborhoods that I just will not go after dark. If you control it so it's so far away from schools and so far away from churches, that puts little old ladies like me at risk.
The one good thing about in Prop 2 is that the first 2 years before they have dispensaries established, they have a law basically that says, like Colorado, when they first developed, they didn't have enough marijuana. So all the backpackers from California came out and started selling marijuana to dispensaries. As soon as the dispensary bought it, it was legal. So in Utah, you'll be able to buy marijuana on the streets, and as soon as you buy it, it will be legal. The drug dealers or the dealer's still going to be taking that risk, but as soon as you have it in your possession,
We have that too, so come on, that ain't new anywhere.
That's 6 years.
That ain't new anywhere. And Bear, you came from Oregon to come back home, but he went to Oregon so that he can have medicine. And Sierra and Landon, who were running around here, they moved to Colorado. So Landon, and he had brain cancer, and they moved just so he could have some, just to help him get through it. Now he's running around like a little crazy man. It was the first time I ever met Landon, but I'd heard all about that little guy. And he had no hair and was the saddest little pitiful thing on the planet. I was still teaching school and raising a kid and working 3 jobs and didn't even know I had cancer yet when all of that started. When Chris and Andy and all their stuff happened. And I have to admit to you guys, this man and his wife, when I saw that they were gonna be speaking here, I sent him a text and I went, how did you get in there? And
That guy.
who is he?
There.
No, I thought you told me it was your agent.
Well, there.
Bear's your agent?
No, there. He helped out.
Yeah, so
Where he is now, if that was
He is now.
I didn't do that in Mormontown, right? So, right, I can turn it up too. Anyway, no, so it was funny. Yeah, his flippant, well, I ask him questions and he gives me funny answers. Like I'll go, how'd you do that? And he'll go, it's in the fine print. And then I have to go, yeah, okay, I'll think on that and see if I can figure out what you're really talking about, Chris. But it doesn't really matter because when I call Chris and I have a vet in another state that can't have full spectrum, and I call Chris and someone else is in big trouble, Chris is who I go to for CBDs for all of them. Yes, go Bear. I love you.
For everybody that's in here right now listening to Deb, I would like you to take a couple things away from this. it's going to get better and better. This is the first one. And for two, you've got two of the most beautiful golden hearts of all the cannabis industry in this room right now talking to you.
Well, and let me talk about what's out there. So I have a booth of silly pot jewelry and key rings and boxes and junk, and he has prison art that he sells. But what I really do, I'm retired. I have plenty. I live in a nice house with a swimming pool. I would like $100,000 road truck, but I don't see that in my future. But, so when Chris gave me that BS, I actually hit I don't know what I was thinking, but I hit the button that said be a speaker. And I filled it out, and the next thing I knew, I was a speaker here. But then she had me at the same time as Chris, and I wanted to see Chris. And these, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, and I will get out of the camera, these are Chris's hemp pants, and I love them. And then this is my Vietnam Memorial shirt that my cousin brought me from DC that's on top.
You might not know why you hit that button, but there are no accidents and no mistakes. It is a
I couldn't believe it. And so, because I'm insane, I have now applied to speak in Little Rock the beginning of October at Imperius. And I have applied to speak at the Cannabis Science Conference in Baltimore in like March or April, and I'm already invited back to Portland next August to talk there again. And I used to steal Chris's favorite saying all the time, and I still will, which is haters make me famous. But I want to teach Chris something today too that I was taught in grad school. They always told me that you'll never be famous at home. You're gonna have to leave the state. And the first thing when I walked in the door, some stranger looked at me and pointed at my face and went, "You're famous, your hair's unchanged." And I about died. Since when? That's it, I'm good. Any other questions for me? I just hope to keep using cannabis oil, and I'm never gonna do a transplant. And I think we could, I have back pain all the time. I got twisted up working on the swordfishing boat because I'm crazy. I've always been crazy. I will do more crazies before it's over. But by golly, I'm going out with road rash.